Good evening and welcome to the Committee of Adjustment meeting for November 30th, 2023. I'll now call the meeting to order. We do have, our chair is out sick this evening, so I do have a draft motion that reads that the Committee of Adjustment named Craig Warden as acting chair for the meeting of Thursday, November 30th, 2023. Could I have a mover? All in favor? Thank you.
3 words.
I think Sarah would like to take the seat.
Good afternoon. We'll now call the meeting to order. The time is 3. Approval of the agenda. We'll now proceed with item number 2, approval of the agenda. The agenda of the Committee of Adjustment meeting of Thursday, November 30th, 2023, be approved as presented. Do I have a mover and a seconder to adopt the agenda as presented? Okay. All those in favor? Motion carried. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest in this matter?
No.
Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. Minutes. Item 4.1 is a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting held on September 6, 2023. I have a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment minutes dated September 6, 2023 be accepted as presented. Do I have a mover and a seconder for this motion? Is there any discussion on the minutes?
Pretty straightforward.
Then I will call the question. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Staff report 10/2023. Minor variance application for 202-210 King Street and 241-43 Center Street. Item 5.1 is a recommendation that the Committee of Adjustment approve the following minor variance. The recommendation reads: the Committee of Adjustment approve the minor variance MV 2023-06 and MV 2023-07 for the properties of 202-210 King Street West and 241/243 Center Street with the following conditions. That the balance, if any, of outstanding taxes, including penalties and interest, shall be paid to the town of Prescott. That the existing parking spaces be clearly identified by the end of the project. That all tenant leases contain clear language that parking is not provided on site, and that should it be needed, other solutions will need to be considered, as street parking overnight is not allowed anywhere in the town between November and April of each year. Signage placed appropriately around the building, reminding tenants and visitors of acceptable locations to park, especially during overnight hours. Do I have a mover and seconder? Okay. Sean Merriman, Manager of Building Bylaw, will speak to the report. Mr. Merriman?
Through you, Mr. Chair. This property background is known, it's basically at the corner of Center and King Street in the downtown. It's what's known historically as the Davis building block. It was built by a gentleman by the name of Davis. And these properties actually represent 3/4 of all the suites in that block. The last quarter is owned by Loshaway Law, which has the farthest corner. It has been a long time site, hosting numerous businesses on both the main and second floors, and is currently home to the Prescott Museum and Visitor Center and the St. Lawrence Shakespeare office. It has also housed residential units both beyond and on the 3rd floor. This new owner that has purchased this building is proposing extensive renovations of the basement, the ground floor, the 2nd floor, and the 3rd floor, including the roof. And his plan is to create a mixture of commercial and institutional uses plus residential uses of 1 and 2 bedroom dwelling units. Each unit will also have their own laundry facility. This minor variance is really to recognize the existing parking constraints that the property has. This building was built long before even cars were existing, so cars weren't really an issue. And so the only thing this meeting is for is to recognize the fact that there's no way that parking is ever going to be available in that space, and that either the people that decide to live there will have to not have a need for parking, or they'll have to find other solutions in order to make that work. This subject property is zoned core commercial, and it allows a wide variety of uses, including all the uses that they have indicated for this property. And the official plan supports the intensification of the commercial or the core commercial or commercial zone, where it will complement the existing pattern and scale of development and plan function of the area. So basically, when we look at it, we want to make sure that we're not blowing it out of proportions. We also want to make sure it fits. And because it's fitting within the existing footprint and the existing historical building, this is a good thing to do. It's not like we're adding 5 or 6 stories to it to make the situation worse than it was. So in general, if this was a new development on a vacant lot, they would be looking to provide 17 spaces. They'd have to provide 1.25 spaces for each apartment, and then they also have to add 15% for visitors parking, which equals 17 parking spaces. In reality, on site, there is only 4 parking spots. A little bit of jiggering, you could maybe get 5, but someone would have to agree to swap to let someone in and out each time. So there's really only 4. So the relief required is for 13 parking spaces. So as you know, when we're considering a minor variance application, the 4 tests as prescribed by section 45(1) of the Planning Act are: is the application minor in nature? Is it desirable for the appropriate development or use of the land, building, or structure? Is it in keeping with the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? And is it keeping with the general intent and purpose of the official plan? A planning brief was attached to this report that came from Anthony, the CEO of Seaway Design Group, working on behalf of the property owner. And staff comments are also provided for each section. So, like I said, the existing building's been there for 150 years. The commercial space needed and occupied the commercial and institutional tenants has been reduced to only about 1/10 of its normal historical use. There used to be business offices and everything on the second floor and stuff like that. But on the plus side, by reducing it, it's also reducing the use of public attendance and interaction. And the proposed mixed use of residential commercial development, coupled with the marketing to a niche market where tenants are advised of limitations of the existing building, complete with parking solutions for off-site parking, ranging within 100 to 500 meters from the site, will allow for a reduced need for parking on-site. So the proposed development does not create any adverse impacts to the adjacent properties and is appropriate for the neighborhood. It is noted that the building is unique in its, is this minor in nature? Well, it's noted that this building is unique in its existence as one of the main buildings within the downtown core of Prescott, and residential needs within the town continue to grow, and as such, provincial policy statements have required the municipalities to look at finding unique solutions to serve niche markets of the entire residential spectrum. This reutilization of a core building that will cater and provide a central location for the enjoyment by residents will help reinvigorate the downtown area, in which active transportation and utilization of bus and taxi services will be encouraged, while still providing parking spaces as needed within a reasonable distance to the building. As such, staff does conclude that the relief being sought in relation to the minimum number of parking spaces is minor in nature. The parking relief variance will enable compatible intensification of the existing heritage building, utilizing low-rise commercials. So we're still keeping the commercial along the front, along King Street, and also allowing our residential to grow. So therefore, staff agree that it is appropriate for the building and the location where it is at. So then we get into the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. Well, the whole purpose behind core commercial in the downtown was to create a mixed use area where there was some residential, some commercial, a little bit of everything, right? So in fact, every single use that's proposed for the building is actually in the core commercial. So none of the uses being discussed are not an allowed use. So staff agrees with the rationale provided that the development fits within the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. So the subject property again is commercial core under the official plan. And this designation was so that we could intensify different types of housing. So the official plan specifically says that the proposals for residential intensification through infill or redevelopment must build upon desirable patterns and built form. So when you consider that we're doing all this intensification within an existing footprint, it's exactly what the official plan was intended when it was passed. So with that conclusion, and based on the analysis, staff does conclude that the relief being sought for these civic addresses is minor in nature, it's appropriate and desirable, and meets the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw and the official plan. I can also advise that the planner is here and the owner is also attending via Zoom, should you have any questions for them.
Okay, thank you. Comments?
Myself, I'm just wondering where within half a kilometer the parking.
Okay, the town allows parking in the following lots when they pay for a permit. The gravel parking lot down at the marina, Riverwalk Park, which is of course down at the end of the Moran Hooker. There is still even a few spots literally right across from the Shoppers Drug Mart, although we tend to save them for people with mobility issues, which these, may be in this case. We also allow parking here at Town Hall,
Right.
up in the north end. So when I measured them all out, every single one of them was less than 500 meters, so.
Hi there. I can sort of also speak to the parking situation. So we're also actively in talks with. Sorry, my name is Elliot Mold. I'm sort of representing the owners of the property. So I've also been in talks with multiple neighboring property owners about renting spaces off them. So we're hoping to provide solutions to people to make it as easy as possible, rather than just leaving them out to sort of find them on their own at a further distance, to appeal to people who maybe want to find parking closer. So we're taking that upon ourselves to work towards arranging that. There's a lot directly behind the property. There's about 4 or 5 spots that are currently available to rent. We also have neighboring properties in the town of Prescott within that range that Sean mentioned, at other properties that are under the same ownership that have extra parking spots as well. So we're not just going to leave them, the potential tenants, out on their own necessarily to sort things out. We'd like to provide them with options. Of course, they'd be the ones paying for the parking spot. They'd know that it wasn't included, but to make sure that the expectation is that they're not parking on the street. So.
Thank you. Anybody in the audience like to speak to this? Comments?
I'm just curious, like, if people are only renting in the winter and then come summer, they don't rent, and then they park along all the side streets. Like, are we gonna have 15 people parking along Henry Street if they don't wanna rent during the summer for their car? I'm just curious. And I'm gonna have 15 cars parked on my street. I'm at 237 Henry Street, so I'm just.
I was a little remiss, because if you're going to speak, you should stand up and state your name, and or at least state your name.
First time. Carter, 237 Henry. Yeah, so I'm just, like, if people are renting in the wintertime, come summertime, am I gonna have 15 cars parked in front of my house? And visitors can't visit, because they don't wanna pay rent in the summertime. I'm just curious.
It's a point. I can't see why anybody would give up a parking spot and hope to get it again in the wintertime, but hey, you never know, right?
Okay, no, sure, absolutely. I'm just throwing it out. Oh, sorry, I'm supposed to be saying.
No, that's fine.
Is
Anyone else?
an annual fee for parking?
The town does offer a monthly fee. It's like everything else. Anyone could park on the street. Now, the odds that someone living there increases those odds, but the town has decided at this time that the bylaw is adequate if it's only for the winter months.
Right.
Should it become a problem, the town could always be appealed to passing it for, year-round use, but in general, there hasn't been a problem, and I don't think there'll be a problem in this case neither. As Mr. Mold mentioned, he's already working on other solutions. I'm working on the worst-case solution that he finds nothing. What do we do, and where would it be expected? Like I said, I suspect that the niche market, the way it's going, fewer and fewer people are looking for cars when they're buying or renting a place anymore. Coupled with the fact that we do have spaces if they need it at the town that they can use year round should they wish. So.
Good point. I never thought of that one, but anyone else? Seeing none? Is there, because we already did that. I will now call the question. All in favor? It's carried. Hey. Item 5.2 is a consent application for Churchill Road East. I have a recommendation that reads that the Committee of Adjustment approve the proposed consent application SEV 2023-07, subject to the following conditions. The balance of any outstanding taxes, including penalties and interest, and any local improvement charges, if applicable, shall be paid to the town. That the footings for the building will be pinned and confirmed by a surveyor prior to, or an acceptable grading plan be submitted for proper drainage that does not affect the neighboring properties. Developer service each lot independently, including the costs involved. An acceptable reference plan or legal description of the severed lands and the deed or instrument conveying the severed lands, demonstrating the new property lines for both properties shall be registered and submitted to the town. Do I have a mover and a seconder? John Merriman, Manager of Building and Bylaw, will speak to the report. Mr. Merriman.
Through you, Mr. Chair. This report starts on page, I believe it's 41 of the agenda for anyone that has a copy of that. This is a vacant lot that's over on Churchill Road East. This subject property is in an established neighborhood that was constructed somewhere around the 1950s, and this lot was never developed. And the town declared the lot surplus in 2023 and was sold. The property is of adequate size and frontage to allow for the lot to be split and to create two lots with a semi-detached dwelling unit on each lot. This consent, if approved, will create more dwellings within the town, and it will create a more affordable home options, because each semi could be sold individually. This section of land has been proposed by a survey diagram showing the current and suggests new lot lines. So it's currently one big lot that's showing the two lots by the surveyor's sketch. The application was submitted to the town on October 30th, 2023. The mailing list for a 60-meter buffer was created and notices were mailed out to the residents in the applicable area, and town departments were notified, and no concerns were expressed by town departments, but I did receive at least 3 concerns from local tenants in the area, and I suspect many of them are here this evening. Under the regulatory control review and provincial policy statement, as part of the province's long-term commitment to economic prosperity and social well-being, all planning applications must be consistent with the provincial policy statement of 2020. As such, a review of the applicable policies must be undertaken and reviewed under the constant test, consistent with the tests required under the Planning Act. The proposed settled lands are located in a settlement area designation. The PPS provides that settlement areas shall be the focus of growth and development, and their vitality and regeneration shall be promoted. Development should be directed to designated settlement areas where intensification opportunities exist, which can be accommodated and appropriately serviced. Such development should not result in a provision of unplanned municipal services, meaning sewer, water, stuff like that, or roads. The proposed separate lots will not result in a land use conflicts as it's already an R2 zone and all what's being proposed fits within the R2 zone. And the proposed separate lots will not result in, now already covered, and no municipal services are required. A picture of the vacant land was provided in the report. So the town's, under the official plan, the town's official plan designates the subject property as residential. The plan allows for this type of development as there is no impact on the town's ability to provide services due to the fact that sewer and water and the streets are already in place. The zoning is medium density residential 2, and the existing use and zoning of the property conforms to the official plan. The consent will allow both properties to meet the requirements of the R2 zone without any need for minor variance relief. So in other words, it's big enough we can split it and they can still develop it without needing any minor variance relief with the project that they have proposed.
The setbacks will be met.
All the setbacks will be percentage of land coverage, all that stuff, it was all met. With this attachment, I've completed the severance application and the site sketch. I can advise that the planner that was involved in that is here this evening as well. And should you have any questions for them or anyone else, I will do my best to answer them.
Thank you. Okay, let's open this up for discussion.
Chair, is the developer here or is just the designer?
Just the designer, Anthony Wonderlicker here for Seaway Design Group.
Okay, so the question I have for you is, there's nothing wrong with the developer, but this developer is building, basically, it's gonna be the same building footprint that is being built on West Street. Okay, the issue that I have with that is I know all the neighbors that are there, and it was planned for semi-detached, and then it was turned into 4 units. And as it stands, the neighbors are trying to figure out where they're gonna park, where they're gonna put their snow. And basically, how are they gonna have a turn radius altogether, right? It's supposed to be a quiet neighborhood, and the impact that I see from everybody around the street is that, yeah, they're gonna rent the units out, but maybe people that come in a year in, have 6 months or whatever the case may be. A lot of those people have been there for 35+ years, and they don't wanna see that. And the second biggest issue is the parking. My personal third issue is because the past unit on West Street was supposed to be semi, it got turned into 4 rental units.
Still a semi-detached
Yeah,
unit. It's still separately owned. The building is still a semi-detached.
yeah, but will it be turned into multifamily, like, aside from the semi? Nothing can stop you from doing it, you can still do it within your application process, right? But I'm just looking down the road, 5 years, 10 years down the road, right? There's people that are living on Church, on this street for a long time. I'm sure everybody's concerned is gonna be parking, and I just see it because I see this house every day.
Right.
And talking to people, like, I'm pro-development, but it's just the parking that everybody, is kind of concerned about, right?
In this case, it's far enough off the road that the parking shouldn't be a concern. There's lots of parking up in front.
Okay.
As proposed. Besides that, I can't guarantee how it's gonna be used in the future.
Whether rental or, you guys aren't sure if it's gonna be a rental or it's gonna be sold or whatever the case.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the developer's doing with it, to be honest.
Fair enough. Like, I'm just looking at it from the point of view that people that have been there for, 20+ years, right? The last thing they wanna see is people come in and out, and then never mind that, they don't have enough parking space, right?
But certainly, I'm not as familiar with the other semi-detached.
It looks like it's identical, actually, they're identically the same. The only thing that you are correct is that you
I
have
know.
a bigger
Yeah.
frontage, right?
I know the buildings are the same, I'm not familiar with the street, the other street.
Yeah.
When it comes to Churchill, when I drive up Churchill, there's there's apartments all along it, multiple dwelling units all along Churchill, that seems.
So the parking's different, right? Cause they get to park in the back, right? I'm just looking at this from like more of a neighborhood point of view, right? You already have apartments in Churchill, but there are parking spots in the back, right? You have it's basically a very busy artillery street. So you have to back in, back out, whatever, that's the nature of things. I'm just looking from the point of view, well, if it was gonna be sold or it was gonna be a rental, just.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking from that, that's my only concern, but you are right, you do have a bigger frontage, so.
Yeah, there's a lot more room and I would argue that street, that especially that end of the street,
Yeah.
when you get down to the other end of the street, which we're actually doing another job for, it's more single family dwelling type stuff.
Yeah, down there.
We're down sort of further east, right? So there's more opportunity for, you know, even if, there's an SDU produced there, then there's more room for parking there, but that one end of the street, I find it very, very much, multi-use residential.
Yep.
Which is what they're, sort of, he's asking for the severance for.
Okay, no, that was my only query. Chair?
Anyone in the audience?
Sure. Just my name?
Sure.
I believe you need name and address, correct? Oh, okay.
So Peggy Hawes, I live at 241 Churchill East. So I'm in one of those older 1950s houses. One of the concerns I know that people have raised is that, for lack of a better word right now, alley is used by everyone to access their backyards because we don't have access any other way. Is there a way we're still going to be able to access our backyard so we can bring out snow blowers and lawnmowers and things like that because we don't have a way to get them and we all have front yards. We all have gardens, we all have trees and such. So how do we maintain the look of our houses and be able to present a nice front that you have generally on Churchill if we're not able to get back there to get our goods? The other issue, of course, being that area is also sometimes used, to my understanding, originally it was kind of like a fire access if there were fires in the back. So if there is something like that, how would fire department get back there to do whatever needs to be done? And also with the snow issue, we already have very little areas to put snow, and this is going to be another impediment to where snow can go, to the point where snow does start getting out into the road and we start losing visibility. So if we have even less space to put snow, we're creating more hazards. Am I missing anything? I think that's all right.
Is your address 243?
241.
Okay, is that townhome block, is that 4 units in townhome block?
6.
6 units, okay, I know exactly which ones, okay. Okay, I didn't know that.
So there's no access to the rear.
No access. I don't think you can get anywhere down, what's that side street? Howe. Howe? Okay, so we can't get down Howe. To my understanding, that's all private. And by this being private with no alley, if things are built up right to lines, we can't get back there anymore. I think most people would be maybe not happy, but somewhat appeased if we still at least were able to walk back there.
If there's a walkway, it'd be great, just a regular walkway for one person at a time, So you could bring a lawnmower out or the snow blower, but if you're getting into the house, it's a split level, so that'd be kind of difficult.
It'd be interesting.
I think so.
Yes?
Francis Wolves, 269 Churchill Road East. So basically east of that lot. And I have the same concerns as the young lady there. So we need some sort of right of way or access to our back lots. And that's not to mention, I know there's plans for development back there as well. I don't know where that's at, but so it's gonna get pretty constricted back there. So, but we do need access, otherwise I'm not carrying a lawnmower through my front door. So it's just not gonna happen. So anyway, that was it. My concern.
Does raise some interesting concept. The property in behind,
Yes,
that's owned by whom?
the town.
The town. And are we selling it?
Anything's possible at any given time, but at the same point, I don't think it's being sold this second.
Is it not tentatively sold?
Yes.
So
And June Allen from 235 Churchill Road. I'm the next sort of Peggy.
That's what I was wondering, what's going on in the back of our property?
So we're not here to talk about the back of the property this evening. It's currently under a sales agreement that is going through due diligence, but certainly hasn't been sold to date. So I think, the nature of living in a townhome is that you don't have straight through access from front yard to backyard. So yeah, it would be uncommon to have a right of way on someone else's property for you to access your front yard or backyard.
When was this property sold?
It was sold just recently in the last 30 days.
Well, those buildings have been there since 1960 without access.
And if you go to any town that has townhouses and things like that, you will see front yard, backyard, and it's the property owner's responsibility to navigate that front yard, backyard issue.
So
So
there won't be a right of way for us to be able to take the lawnmower or the snow blower by through like a right of way, even if it's just a pathway?
I'm not sure it's something that the town can force. Certainly it can be brought up with the individual, the owner, but maybe the designer can speak to it a little bit as well.
Well, I'm just looking at the properties beside, we didn't look at the properties beside, committee at all, but I don't know, do you have a survey of your own properties? Like, do you own them or you rent them?
Yes, we own
You own them?
yes.
You have a survey, the property in question, the property in question has the setbacks are fairly large, 12 feet, pretty much. So there's the proposed building is not gonna be right on the property line. I'm not gonna say that you can tramp over these people's lawn.
No.
Right? But I would suspect that your properties would have somewhat of an adequate setback to the property line as well, which I would think, and generally 1.2 meters is.
It's row housing in this case.
The row houses.
Talking about the middle
Yeah.
units, so they don't have any,
They've got right on the property lines, right?
yeah, because they're, all 6 of them are attached,
Okay.
so.
Okay. Well, again, I can't say that that the new property owners are gonna let you go on their property, but, they aren't gonna be right tight up to the row houses. There is a 3.9 meter setback from the new development to the row houses. So there is grass there,
2.9 meters.
3.9 meters, so almost 4 meters, which is around 12 feet.
There wouldn't be any pathway, like you said, it would be.
There won't be a pathway now.
Sean, just a question for you,
How do we fight this? Because
let's just say, for example, that this doesn't get approved for the semi, right? I have seen in townships where they try to do a semi, it was really tight for easements, right? Could it ever go back if we were to say, no, we don't feel comfortable because basically there was not a proper, not a study, but just basically due diligence of their row houses, right? But would the town ever consider that, okay, we would let them do a single family detached, but then we would bring back their setback, so there would be a proper laneway? Basically, it's kind of throwing it back in they own the lot properly, right? So we can't take back anything.
They own the lot properly. It was
Yeah.
advertised for sale. It was bought by this individual and there's no easements on the property as it exists. It meets all the requirements for a consent severance. I do not see any reason that the town would not grant it.
Yeah, because we are here for this,
No, I understand, right? But I also get where they're going, right?
and exactly where they're coming from.
You didn't even know there was row houses right beside you, right?
Well, I knew they were there, but as far as the access to the road, it's not something that.
Their concern again was whether or not there was easements on the existing property, which there is not.
Yeah.
Okay, they would assume that other solutions were made, or it was simply whoever bought the row housing knew what the conditions are. Using the argument that I have a right to trespass or I have been trespassing, I don't know if that would be grounds to say no to a consent.
that we're only here to do the severance on the lot. What needs to be done in the future is with the development behind, if, because I understand your concerns, and like we had, there was some on Claxon Terrace the same way years ago when I lived over there, but, but where this has to be taken up, because this isn't actually the meeting for that, it's great to hear your concerns, and man, I bleed for you, but that's not what we're doing. But where it needs to be is if that land behind you gets developed, and it is owned by the town right now, then that is something in the stipulation for that development, that you have access across that back, so you can get to the back of your property, right?
Well, that's quite the trick.
Pardon me?
That's quite the trek around. I mean,
I get it.
Yeah. I know,
okay, so if this goes through, then where can we air our grievances on this?
This is your only opportunity. This is your only opportunity. There is no appeal.
And just a point of note, regardless of whether it's, whether the consent goes through.
Or not, you're not guaranteed access through the land anyway.
Regardless, the developer could put up
No trespassing sign.
well, they could put up a building just the same size, the same setbacks.
Yeah,
And you're still getting cut off the access because that property isn't owned, it's owned by the developer. So regardless of what goes up there, whether it's consentless or not, that property is still
going to be developed.
And developed likely to the, our developers obviously develop the
Exactly.
maximum of their allowed, because that way they get the most out of the property. But either way, there isn't easement there regardless.
Gonna be a duplex, or is it gonna be two single?
It would be semi-attached, like the one on West Street, it would be 2 units that can be sold. Very similar, I guess, to your units, yours are all semis.
Individually owned, basically.
With a separation and.
freestanding, just like your row houses are. That's what it's called. All right. It's that time. Now,
That's all it takes.
either one of you guys have any more comments? Louis?
No, I lived that problem once before, and it wasn't pleasant.
I will now call the question. All in favor?
I'm not.
All those decline? We don't have a quorum then, do we?
No, we don't.
And we have to do more, so 2 out of 3.
Okay,
Yeah, it passes.
motion's carried then.
What passed?
Yes. Anyone have any new business they'd like to speak to?
I know.
See what happens.
No media present? Item number 8 is adjournment. I have a recommendation, the Committee of Adjustment meeting be adjourned. The time is 5:40. Do I have a mover and a seconder? All those in favor? Motion is carried. Thank you.